Welcome to this episode of The Wisdom of Paramahansa Yogananda, brought to you by Self-Realization Fellowship, where each week you can receive inspiration and guidance from Paramahansa Yogananda's Kriya Yoga teachings. The subject of this talk is What is Truth? By Brother Govindananda.
Well, good morning, everyone. Our subject this morning is framed as a question. What is truth? And I think for every one of us here, at some point in our lives, this was a burning question for us. At some point. Now, for many of us, that might have been when we were teenagers or in college years. But I think for all of us, that question remains. What is truth? But as the years go by, at least for me, I think that question loses some of its immediacy because we're on the path, we're learning to meditate, we're doing the best we can, we're just, caught up maybe in the details. But every now and then, it's really good to step back and ask ourselves these bigger questions. How am I doing in my search for truth? Am I making the progress that I hoped I would make when I first had that question? And when I first had an answer to that question, which for many of us was when we read our guru, Paramahansa Yogananda's autobiography of a yogi. And wouldn't it be nice to be able to look back on our life as it is coming to a close, many, many years in the future, and be able to say to ourselves, I know, at least to some extent, what truth is. We may or may not be able to get to know truth in its entirety between now and then, but what a goal to have. To win at the game of life at the deepest level, and to have something to bring with us wherever the journey next takes us. How might we judge whether we have achieved that goal when the time comes? Well, for those of us that are disciples of Paramahansa Yogananda, the first yardstick that might come to mind is, how deeply can I meditate? But I don't think that necessarily or always reflects where we're truly at in our spiritual journey. I know I've talked to some devotees and they tell me meditation is difficult for them. It has been difficult for some time. And, they can get a little discouraged. But I know they're making tremendous, tremendous spiritual progress. Their quality just shines forth as devotees. So I don't think there's, an exact correspondence there between how deeply we can meditate and how well we're doing on the spiritual path, how far we've progressed. Another yardstick could be the degree to which we look back on our lives and say, I've done my best. I've done my best to live according to the principles outlined in my guru's lessons. But one measure that I find motivating is to read almost any one of the 700 verses of the Bhagavad Gita and ask myself, how am I doing? How am I doing? For example, here are a number of the best known, or in some cases the most challenging Gita verses. And as I read them, we can ask ourselves, how am I doing? And if we're tempted to think, oh man, not as well as I'd like, let's just remember this Gita verse when Krishna tells Arjuna, this is chapter 2, verses 2 and 3. So if we're getting a bit discouraged, Krishna or the Guru or the soul or God tells us, how hath this weakness taken thee? Whence springs the inglorious trouble, shameful to the brave, barring the path of virtue? Nay, Arjun, forbid thyself to feebleness. It mars thy warrior name. Cast off the coward fit. Wake, be thyself. Arise, scourge of thy foes. Doesn't that just get you going? And well, if that doesn't, here's another one. But before I go on to that, I should say that this very message where Krishna tells Arjuna, arise. This is how our Guru finishes up his 1,200-page commentary of the Bhagavad Gita, by repeating that verse. It's like that's the message he wants to leave with us. Never get discouraged, never get downhearted, keep fighting. And he writes, and this is on page 1,200 and something, we have seen in the Bhagavad Gita the story of the soul's journey back to God, a journey each one must make. O divine soul, like Arjuna, forsake this small weak-heartedness of mortal consciousness. Arise, before you is the royal path. Or this verse from chapter 4, Krishna again tells Arjuna, cut then a twain with sword of wisdom, son of Bharat, son of India, this doubt that binds thy heartbeats, that clenches at the heart. Cleave the bond born of thy ignorance. Be bold and wise. Give thyself to the field, to the battle of life. Give thyself to the field with me. Arise. Krishna seems to like that word, arise. In more colloquial terms, it might be get up, So here's what I thought are maybe three of the most challenging. They're very well-known verses, but they're challenging. So I'll start with a number of challenging verses, and then we'll go on to ones that are more, say, purely inspiring. But here's one. And I picked these because they're well known, but maybe also for some personal reasons, I don't know. Krishna tells Arjuna, O flower among men, he who cannot be ruffled by sensory impressions, who is calm and even-minded during pain and pleasure, he alone is fit to attain everlastingness. So I read that and I think, how am I doing? Here's another one. Thy human right, Krishna tells Arjuna, is for activity only, never for the resultant fruit of actions. Do not consider thyself the creator of the fruits of thy activities, neither allow thyself attachment to inactivity. So we're not given the out of just, since we're not responsible for the fruits of our actions, why bother doing anything? No, that's not the way to understand that verse. Here's another one. This is from chapter 16. Lust, anger, and greed, these constitute the threefold gate of hell, leading to the destruction of the soul's welfare. These three, therefore, man should abandon. I don't know about you, but a little bit of work to do maybe. A little bit of work to do. But that's okay. But just to balance things out, let's take a few of the most inspiring verses. This again is from chapter 2. Krishna tells Arjuna, this self, the soul that each one of us is or has, this self is never born, nor does it ever perish, nor having come into existence will it again cease to be. It is birthless, eternal, changeless, ever the same, unaffected by the processes associated with time. It is not slain when the body is killed. Here's another one. Chapter 18, this is near the end, where Krishna is wrapping things up and he tells Arjuna, absorb thy mind in me. Krishna represents the soul, Christ consciousness, cosmic consciousness, God, the Guru, whatever you like. Absorb thy mind in me, become my devotee, resign all things to me, bow down to me. Thou art dear to me, so in truth do I promise thee, thou shalt attain me. Just a few verses further on, Krishna tells Arjuna about the benefits to be gained from from just reading the Bhagavad Gita and trying our best to put the principles into practice. Even that individual who merely listens to and heeds this sacred dialogue, being freed from earthly karma, shall dwell in the blessed worlds of the virtuous. Even reading the Gita and heeding it, doing our best to put it into practice, will free us from karma and allow us to dwell in the blessed worlds of the virtuous. I mean, these are such promises and such so comforting, I think. And near the end of the service this morning, I think I'd like to take one or two of these as time permits and just repeat them as an affirmation a few times, just to feel them going deep, deep within. And then just reflect on what a difference even repeating the message in the Gita can make in our consciousness immediately. So and when I was picking some of these verses, I picked some that were meaningful to me, but I also went online and I said, which are the most famous Gita verses, which are the most inspiring, to get a sense of the best known verses. But I think for each of us, the questions are, which verses inspire you? And which verses do you live by? Because these verses, we're meant to live by them. So clearly knowing the truth of these scriptural statements is the work of a lifetime, maybe lifetimes, but where should we start our quest for truth? The good news for many of us is that we already have the most important necessity in the search for truth, and that is a God-realized guru. As Paramahansa Yogananda states in the very first sentence of his autobiography of a yogi, we all know this opening line. The characteristic features of Indian culture have long been a search for ultimate verities, that is truth, and the concomitant disciple-guru relationship. The search for truth and the guru-disciple relationship, that is part and parcel of that search for truth. Why is the guru-disciple relationship so necessary? Ultimately, it's because this world is not as it seems, and immersed in it as we are, we can't find a way out without a guide. And that's just the way it is. But just having the blessing of a guru is not enough. We need to remember to attune ourselves to the guru as we face the challenges of daily life. Our president, Sri Dayamata, some years ago, in her talk, The Godward Life, which was published in our magazine, said that she talked about this process of tuning in with the guru, asking the guru's help in our search for truth and in our desire to change and to grow our spiritual qualities. And she said when she was a young devotee on the path, she went to our guru and told him, "Master, I don't like the imperfections I see in myself. Help me, show me the way to freedom from my shortcomings." And she said in those days a painful problem for her was she felt she didn't have enough faith. Can you imagine? Sri Dayamata. And she said she asked the guru, "How can I develop stronger faith?" And do you know what he said? He just said, "You must just work for it. You must just work for it." And it's so simple. And she had expected to be blessed with some novel technique or divine grace. No. You must practice it, he said. And the same goes for any quality that we're trying to develop. We have to work at it. But Ma found, this is the interesting bit, Ma found that this was not the answer in itself, or at least not the complete answer, because she said she began to practice working at developing her faith, and she said the more she practiced cultivating it, she said the more it seemed that things conspired to shake her faith. And she said, "I didn't seem to be getting anywhere." Does that sound familiar? I mean, it's as if when we try, it does to me, it's as if when we try to change, Maya, or cosmic delusion, shifts out of auto mode and takes manual control. And it says, "I need to pound on this guy right now, or else he's going to get some bad ideas about escaping this delusion of mine." But if I just put the right amount of pressure right at the beginning just to discourage him, he'll give up and I can go back to, whatever Maya does in its spare time. So that just seems to be how it works. At the beginning, we get this resistance to change. But going on with Ma's story, she said, finally I began to realize that there was something wrong with my attitude. And she said, after thinking about it, I understood. She said, I'm not taking this problem to God. We can take the problem to God or Guru, whatever is most meaningful to us at that time. But she said, from then on, when she was working on this quality of developing faith, she did it with God, talking to God, asking God to help her develop this quality. And she said, whatever difficulty or character flaw is troubling you, bring it to God. And she said, the key is to resurrect the memory of the opposite divine quality that we already have. And Ma's point here is she had faith. The soul has faith. She just needed to be able to bring it out. But she wasn't able to bring it out for some reason unless she did it asking for God's help. And she said, we make that opposite quality a dependable part of our character by practicing it at every available opportunity. Sister Gyanamata, who was one of Paramahansa Yogananda's most advanced disciples, had great insight into how the cultivation of faith in a guru led directly to an awareness of truth. And she wrote this in a short essay about Pontius Pilate's question to Jesus, what is truth? And she said, many there are who put this question. Much time is spent in searching for the ultimate truth, and yet the blessed fact is, it is ever present within us. As air and light stream into a house through the open windows, so if the windows of the soul are thrown open, truth will flow in and illumine us according to our ability to recognize and receive it. So it's not that we actually have to go out and search for truth. It's inside us. But how do we find it inside ourselves? And Sister said, we find it by applying the tests to self, to how we're doing, that usually are reserved for abstract truth. What does that mean? She said, we need to apply the acid test to our own character. It's have I faith? It's not what have I faith in, but simply have I faith? Or am I capable of loyalty? How far will it carry me? As we get answers to these questions by introspecting, truth begins to grow within us. And she closed her short essay on the search for truth by, again, calling for help. In this case, for the help of the gurus, all of the gurus that you see on the altar here, not just pictures. They can be called on. And she asked the gurus to bestow upon her and to all of the gurus' disciples a little of their courage, faith, and loyalty to a cause, so that there will be no time or no need to search for the truth, because it will live within us, manifest through us, and lead us on to what she called unimagined heights. So what is the next step in the search for truth? So we have a guru, most of us. If you're still searching, keep searching until you find the guru that is God ordained for you. Step 2 is to then follow a moral code. And our guru said about this, you could think of this as, something like the 10 Commandments, if you like, or the yama and niyama in Patanjali's Yoga Sutras, the list of things that Patanjali says we should do, things we should not do. Our guru calls a moral code like this the indispensable preliminary for sound philosophical investigation. So if we're asking this question intellectually, what is truth? Our guru says, no, that's not the way to go about searching for truth. Truth is not an intellectual pursuit. It's an intuitional pursuit. We can only know truth by knowing it in the same way that we know that we exist. It's not up in the head. And our Guru said that this requirement, this demand that the seeker for truth changes himself or herself if they are to perceive truth, is what distinguishes Western philosophy from the wisdom of the East. And why is a personal commitment to change necessary? He says, because the cosmic order that upholds the universe is not different from the moral order that rules our destiny. So if we want to find truth without, we have to find it within first. And our Guru writes that those who are unwilling to observe the universal moral precepts are not seriously determined to pursue truth. It's interesting to me that Patanjali lists telling the truth as the second of these moral principles, not the first. It's a little surprising maybe, because why would something this important not be listed first? In God Talks with Arjuna, which is our Guru's commentary on the Bhagavad Gita, he writes that truth is the foundation stone of the universe. And he quotes the Mahabharata, that great scripture in which the Bhagavad Gita is part of, and the Mahabharata says the worlds are built on truth. The worlds are built on truth. And our Guru says, men and civilizations stand or fall according to their attitude toward truth. We'll talk about that in a little bit if you're kind of concerned now. But he says, the scriptures point out that a devotee whose ideal is truth should always exercise judgment and common sense before speaking. It's not enough merely to tell the truth. Our words should also be sweet, healing, and beneficial to others. Hurtful statements, however accurate, are usually better left unsaid. Many a heart has been broken and many a life wrecked by truths spoken by others inopportunely. A sage carefully watches his speech, lest he wound those who are not yet ready to hear and profit by his veracious observations. So instead of putting truth first, Patanjali lists ahimsa, as I think we all know, nonviolence. Gandhi, who was famous for his practice of this principle, equated nonviolence with love. And in its positive form, Gandhi said about nonviolence, ahimsa means the largest love, the greatest charity. If I am a follower of ahimsa, I must love my enemy. And our Guru, again about truth, said, fight not even for truth. This is in the Divine Romance. Fight not even for truth if love is not in thy heart. Hatred cannot be conquered by hatred. Meanness cannot be overcome by meanness. If, in the guise of defending truth, hatred or vengefulness or an inflated ego precipitates in thy heart a desire to battle thy detractors, forsake the fight. First, culture love. Now, I quoted that our Guru's saying, if civilizations stand or fall depending on their adherence to truth, well, how are we doing? Not just how am I doing now in my search for truth, how is the culture doing? It made me want to find out whether there are any good studies as to how truthful the average person is these days. Now, I certainly wouldn't want to base my level of concern on what I see in the media, okay? That might be discouraging. But there was a study from the University of Alabama at Birmingham in 2021 which found that, newsflash, new research shows that most people are honest, except for a few. So apparently, the lead researcher, Timothy Levine, he said there's been an assumption for a long time that people lie a lot, and that lying is ubiquitous and really common. And past research has found that people lie on average about once or twice a day. But researchers have learned that the average number of lies per day reported in the literature does not reflect the behavior of most people. The distribution of lying is highly skewed. Most people report telling few or no lies on a given day. Let's hope they're answering the truthfully. And most lies are told by only what he calls a few prolific liars. And he said the message from his study is that everyday communication is probably safer than you think it is. Probably, he says. And he said there's that kind of top 1% out there who are telling more than 15 lies per day in or day out. But we don't meet that many people. So for most of us, almost all the time, people are telling the truth. Most people are truthful. Most people are very good. And this finding, that it's just 1% of people that lie a lot, Levine said it's been an exceptionally robust finding, meaning every time they've looked at this is what they've found. And he said for his research, they tracked 630 participants, and they asked them to keep a daily deception journal, which yielded 116,336 lies, which again sounds like a lot, but if you break it down, it's not a lot. And apparently 75% of people are consistently honest, telling between 0 and 2 lies per day. I don't know how a lie is defined. I thought maybe I don't want to know that. And by contrast, a small subset of people, only about 6%, averaged more than 6 lies per day and accounted for a sizable proportion of the lies. And he said this study was really hard to pull off because, it took a lot of work getting this data. So his bottom line was this: people are mostly honest, and people mostly believe other people. And deception is more of a kind of an exceptional thing rather than a chronic worry. So things and people are much, much better than what the headlines might lead us to believe. It's exactly, people always have this concern, right? Just back in history, there's always some moral, kind of scare. But most people are good. Most people are very good. Well, that study was done in 2021, and you're thinking, well, maybe things have changed since then. Well, they have. They're better. Why? Because we're in an ascending age. So things are getting better. So we have a guru, that's step 1. Number 2, we're following a moral code. What's next? Step 3, we develop our intuition. Now, we've got a few talks on our website and YouTube on intuition, so I won't go into it in much depth this morning, but the basic idea is this. Truth can't be known, and I've already said this, but truth can't be known through intellectual processes. Truth is known through knowing. That is, in the same way that we know that we exist, we know what truth is through our intuition. And our Guru says about this, how are we going to find the truth, the reality that lies behind what the senses perceive? You can't do it by your rationalizing mind, because your mind falls victim to the senses. It can only infer what the senses tell it. The mind, therefore, does not comprehend the infinite forces that are dancing all around. Only by the development of intuition can we know what is truth. Intuition is direct perception. Now, in lesson 75 of the self-realization lessons, our Guru writes that the entire 18 chapters of the Gita are a peerless and sublime exposition on the practical application of intuitional knowing of truth. Every chapter. So this morning I thought we could take 1 or 2 of these Gita verses, as time permits, and see if by using them as affirmations for just a minute or 2 we can tap into the truth they contain and take them as motivation and inspiration for change, and even see if they have an immediate effect on our consciousness, maybe on how we go about our day for the rest of the day. And it's interesting that the word that Patanjali uses for intuition, agama, it means that which comes of itself. But which means intuition, but commentators usually take it to mean the authority of the scriptures. But it only means that if we are understanding the scriptures intuitively, which is not the case for many people. So, again, many of you, I think, will remember the story from the autobiography of a yogi, where Sri Yukteswar, our guru's guru, went to this forest hermitage in Bengal, and for, say, half an hour, they read one Gita verse, meditated on it, and the teacher asked them, do you understand it? And if somebody dared to say yes, he said, no, you don't. Go back and do it again for another half hour. Again, do you understand it? I think so. Not yet. Meditated on it for an hour. So I hope you don't have any plans for lunch. But we're not going to go into it in quite that detail this morning. But we're just going to take one or two of these verses and repeat them for a few times. I'm going to choose some of the more inspiring ones, the ones where we don't have to have that demon of doubt come up, just the truth about who we are as souls. So let's do that now. So the first one, I thought we would just repeat a few times. It's talking about the immortality of the soul. Nothing in this world can affect us. And by just repeating this to ourselves a few times, I think we can right away feel our perspective on whatever challenges we're facing in our life change. I'll read it through once. And this is chapter 2, verse 23. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. So repeat after me. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. Keep repeating it to yourself. Take it deeper and deeper. No weapon can pierce the soul. No fire can burn it. No water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. weapon can pierce the soul, no fire can burn it, no water can moisten it, nor can any wind wither it. Our Guru wrote about truth. By honoring the principle of truth in his thoughts, speech, and actions, a devotee puts himself in tune with creation and with the Creator. The true man or woman of God is freed from the painful dualities and contradictions of relativity and is fit, at last, to enter the final refuge of absolute truth.
This has been a production of Self-Realization Fellowship, a non-profit organization founded by Paramahansa Yogananda in 1920. For more information about Self-Realization Fellowship and Paramahansa Yogananda, please visit yogananda.org.